deprives her of her childhood. By addressing child marriage, we are protecting universal human rights.
If you tackle child marriage, you are looking at the cause of maternal and child deaths, you're looking at the cause of diminishing development activities in the country, you're looking at the cause of gender-based violence, you're looking at the cause of sexual and reproductive health issues.
This is an issue all over the world. So if we want to stop child marriage, then we need to work in a movement. We will need a kind of campaign from everywhere.
We provide a platform for these different organizations that are doing this amazing work on the ground to learn from each other, to share experiences with each other, and actually do their work better.
These partnerships help us learn what is actually working in India, how can we replicate it in Afghanistan, how can we replicate it in Bangladesh and Nepal. One organization cannot make much more difference, but when 10 organizations come together, they are more powerful.
The goal of Girls with Prides is very simple. We want to end child marriage in one generation.
All of us together, as a collective entity, will solve this problem.
I am as committed to ending child marriage as I was committed to ending apartheid. And we will have a wonderful world when we have women who have been able to become anything they want to become.
Welcome. Bienvenue. Bienvenidos. Selamat datang. Merci à vous tous qui avez fait des efforts tellement importants pour venir ici aujourd'hui. Je sais que beaucoup d'entre vous ont fait des voyages de plusieurs jours pour arriver ici. Thank you for all of the efforts that you've made to come here today, taking precious days from your family and your work to come here to Malaysia. And from those of you from Malaysia, thank you so much for welcoming us to your beautiful country. I'm also really excited to let you know that this session is live streamed. We have hundreds of people who are following the global meeting remotely. So thank you for all of your support, even from afar. I wanted to start the global meeting by acknowledging a number of people who are actually not in the room, who have passed. The Girls Not Brides family lost a number of activists over the past few years. And we also know that many of you have suffered losses of people who are incredibly close to you. And of course, there are a number of tragedies that my colleagues and I haven't even heard about. So for all of the people who have left, I just wanted to take a moment to remember them, to grieve, to thank them for their love and support, and all they have done to support the cause of ending child marriage. So why have we all come here to Kuala Lumpur today? We've come here to connect, to learn, to inspire, and to align. And our time here is precious, because over the 3 days of this global meeting, almost 100,000 girls will be married. Over 2,000 girls will be married by the end of this plenary session. Each one of these girls has a unique story, unique circumstances. And it's often these individual stories that fill our bellies with the fire and the determination that makes us committed to ending child marriage once and for all. It's the story that my grandmother told me, of getting married at the age of 13. But for me, child marriage ended with that generation. For my little daughter Mina, child marriage will hopefully just be a part of her family's ancient history. There are other women my age around the world who look a bit like me, who may even be named Lakshmi, who are planning their daughters' weddings, daughters who may even be named Mina. And they're taking child marriage into the next generation. And who knows, one of those girls who may be named Mina, who might be the daughter of Lakshmi, may even be one of those 2,000 girls being married while this session is going on. So we'd better use our time wisely over the next couple of days, so that the next time we meet, we're telling a very different story. What is that story? It's not just the story of a world where girls no longer have to marry young. Now, our vision is much broader than that. It's much bigger than that. It's a world where men and women, boys and girls, are equal. It's a world where every girl can have an education, where she can live free from violence, she can choose if, when, and how many children she wants to have. She has control over her body, she has control over her life, and she is able to live her life to the fullest. I'm convinced that this is a world that we can achieve, that this is a new story that we are able to tell. That's because there are amazing girls and women, boys and men around the world who are changing their lives. There are amazing activists around the world, including all of you who are in the room right now. And there is change in the air. Over the last couple of months, we have heard from so many of you that the Me Too movements, the Time's Up movements, that these have opened up new spaces for discussions about violence and gender inequality more broadly. So while I've been excited preparing for this meeting to see old friends, to meet new friends, and to strengthen the bond that tie this amazing Girls Not Brides family together, I'm also incredibly excited about the potential for this meeting to get us so much closer to that world, that vision of what we want to see. Now that's because of all of you and everything that you've done to prepare for the meeting so far. But this meeting has also been made possible by a group of incredibly committed donors, many of whom support Girls Not Brides more broadly, and some of whom have made specific contributions to this meeting. It's also made possible by my colleagues in the Girls Not Brides Secretariat team and an amazing set of consultants who've been working all hours to make this meeting happen. They're wearing purple lanyards, so you can always go find them, and I would like to now ask them to stand up.
Et nous les jeunes, vous nous avez oubliés?
Les jeunes! The youth! What in the world does youth have to say about child marriage?
Nous allons vous dire ce que nous voulons à propos du mariage des enfants.
Les jeunes peuvent porter la problématique du mariage des enfants à l'intention de la communauté internationale afin de l'initier au rang international.
The world leaders alone cannot make the change we hope to see. We need young people like us to make the change in the global community.
Les jeunes ont un rôle primordial de l'éradication du mariage des enfants, à condition qu'ils connaissent leurs droits, qu'ils aient accès aux bonnes informations et qu'on leur donne l'occasion de s'exprimer.
One human being with conviction can bring the real change.
We are the young people. Around 40% of the total population of the world is aged between 16 to 24, and if we add the children group, we are almost half of the population. Today, we're the largest number of young people the world has ever seen, which implies we will be the largest generation in the near future. Actually, we are the future. And with the problems like child marriage, the future is at stake because we are living in the core of this problem and we need to be in the core of the solution process as well. So we have just got one thing to say.
Nothing about us without us.
Les jeunes sont l'avenir de demain. Le mariage des enfants doit être banni car aucun développement n'est possible si nous n'investissons pas dans les filles. Nous pouvons l'illustrer par la vidéo que nous allons vous présenter de Solita. Merci.
Hello everyone, welcome to the global meeting. My name is Sonita Rizala. I am an activist and a rapper, and I am very, very proud to be a Girls Not Rights champion. I wish that I could be there with you today, but I am in a new school program and I can't get away. It is exciting to me that you're all here. When I was 10 and again when I was 16, my family tried to sell me into marriage. And at that time, I thought that child marriage was something that only happened in Afghanistan or in Iran. I didn't realize that it happens everywhere. I also could not have imagined that anyone cared about it. I felt very alone. And when I first learned about Girls Not Rights and all the people in the world working to end child marriage, all of you, I was so surprised and I was filled with so much happiness and hope. Thank you. Thank you to you. Knowing about you and also thinking of all of my friends still facing child marriage is what inspired me to keep going, keep doing what I'm doing now. Today I speak and rap all over the world, sharing about child marriage, a reality that you all know and understand, what world leaders and students and everyone to try and bring real change. I am very happy to see many young people here. Youth people are the heart of this problem. We must also be at the heart of this solution. I hope that everyone here takes time during the conference to really listen to the youth here and take their thoughts and ideas seriously. This is my challenge to you. I am working on some exciting projects that involve education, advocacy, and of course music and youth. And I hope you will all join me. I really hope you will use this conference to inspire and push each other to keep going too. So we can work together to end child marriage. I believe we can do it when we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita. So I hadn't quite finished my remarks when I got rudely pushed off the stage by our amazing youth. What I wanted to say when I was interrupted was that our team, our Secretariat team, is so committed to youth activism to end child marriage that many of us have been busy creating the next generation of activists. So many of you have worked with Kate and Ellen. They're both at home looking after their new babies. But I'm very excited to introduce to you Zora. As you see, we start working them quite young. I'm really curious what their youth takeover is going to look like in 18 years. We would have solved child marriage by then. What's their issue going to be? So we had a chance to hear a message from Sunita, and we have a few additional messages that I wanted to share. So I'd like to invite up Habiba onto the stage, who's going to give us a message from Malala and speak on behalf of the Gul Makai champions. Welcome, Habiba. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Habiba Mohammed from Nigeria, and I am a Gul Makai Network champion. And what we do basically is we are education activists. We support girls to go to school. And for the Malala Fund is helping us to keep girls in school. We advocate for free, safe, and quality education and 12 years education for all. And I will not have been here today without the support of the Ford Foundation, who is also helping us to bring back out-of-school girls to school. We have the largest number of out-of-school girls in Nigeria, and we hope that by the end of this program, everyone will struggle to ensure that all girls everywhere, especially in Nigeria, are able to go back to school and stay out of and end child marriage. Thank you so much.
I'm now delighted to share with you a message to all of you from the elders.
In June 2011, the elders brought 70 activists from around the world to Ethiopia to discuss child marriage. Some of those original activists are among you in Kuala Lumpur today. I was there at the original meeting in Ethiopia, and I have never forgotten the excitement of working together on this issue for the very first time. It's an issue that remains close to my heart. That meeting inspired the elders to set up the Girls Not Brides.
Before the elders set up Girls Not Brides, I was aware of child marriage, but I didn't know the scale of the problem. That first hit me when I went with other elders to India in 2012. We met several young girls, some as young as 13, who were already married and had to drop out of school. Others were trying to persuade their parents not to marry them off and to let them finish their studies.
At a time when a girl should be playing with her friends, learning in school and enjoying her childhood, she is instead forced into a very adult situation. Child brides face pressure to have children when they are still children themselves, and child brides have little power within their marriage, especially when they are married to older men. Keep being outraged by this.
What began with a handful of organizations has now grown to more than 1,000. It is truly amazing to see.
The incredible hard work and dedication of those working to end child marriage, people like you and those who are joining us online. The need to empower girls and women so that they can take control of their own bodies and destinies, and the need to tell the whole world about the scale of the problem and get as many people as possible involved at all different levels to end it.
We are all change makers, and we can end this terrible injustice within a generation.
As you embark on these next 3 days, I have 3 wishes for you. Take every opportunity to share insights, experience, and suggestions. Connect with as many people as possible to learn and to align your work. And finally, and not least, inspire each other to reach greater heights, to achieve the goal we all want, and end to child marriage. Have a truly wonderful meeting. I will be thinking of you.
Good morning. My name is Mabel, and I was the CEO of the Elders when all this started, and I'm very happy to now be the board chair of Girls Not Brides. It's lovely to see so many of you, and to start our global meeting this way. I'm going to do a really quick presentation on actually where we are, where we've come from that moment in 2011 in Addis Ababa, when we decided to create Girls Not Brides. Now, I would like to ask you, if you were present at the start in Addis Ababa, would you mind standing up? Look at this! Whoa! Very good. You know what's so interesting? There were about 70 participants in Addis Ababa. And now we have almost 500 participants from 70 countries. That's really remarkable, I think. Now, being together in Addis, we decided that if we wanted to create that world without child marriage, we had to work in partnership. That none of us could do this alone, but if we were to work together, we would be stronger. And don't forget that at that time, there were only very few people and very few organizations working to end child marriage. Child marriage was like a taboo, and the girls, the millions of girls getting married every year, were pretty much invisible. And so we decided to embark on a mission to create that world without child marriage, and we said we will have 3 objectives. The first one would be to raise awareness together, both about the problems, but also about the solutions to ending child marriage. We would work to advocate for more policy commitments, more programming, more money, etc. We would also, the third thing, learn from each other about what's working to end child marriage, but also to be really honest about things that do not work. And of course, we would find power in unity. Now, we also agreed how we would do this. And some of the features of how we said we would work together, I think are important to remind ourselves of. We said that we would be pragmatic, that we would not create big bureaucracies, but do with as little bureaucracy as possible, to be agile, to be flexible. We agreed that in our partnership, every organization, very big or very small, would be equal, because a true collaboration is about equality. And we agreed that we would never forget that ultimately we're here to serve the girls who are at risk of ending up as child brides. Now, our partnership has grown a little since Addis. And here you see on this slide that we started when Girls Not Brides was formally launched shortly after the Addis meeting in September 2011. We started with 87 member organizations in 20 countries. Now, I would like to ask the people, because here you see it in 2017, I would like to ask everybody whose organization has joined this year and become a member in 2018 of Girls Not Brides to stand up. Welcome. Welcome to the Girls Not Brides family. With your and many other organizations joining this year, I'm going to announce the latest number of members. Ta-da-da-da! 1,017 members in 97 countries. Now, if anybody doubts whether we are a global organization, yes or no, have a look at the next slide. This is what I call a truly global partnership. The majority of our members is from Africa, about a quarter of our members is from South Asia, and Western Europe and North America are a minority. That's what the world looks like. Also, another thing that I find personally quite exciting is that this is an organization where international NGOs are a minority. This is an organization that is full of community-based organizations, of youth-led groups, of groups operating in countries where the prevalence rates are very high. So let's have a look at the composition of our organization, actually. Look at this. Out of the more than 1,000 member organizations, 332 are youth-led. Many of them work on a national level. Almost 200 of our member organizations are community-based. Many of them serve specifically youth. And so you see, this is a truly mixed partnership as well. And I think that one of the things that we can say is that we are strong because we are personally committed to ending child marriage. And so I would like you to stand up if you have either personally been affected by child marriage or if somebody very close to you has been affected. Could I ask all those of you who've been affected directly, either yourself or people close to you by child marriage, to stand up? Thank you. That's really impressive. Now, as you know, in more and more countries, Girls Not Brides members have decided to come together and to create Girls Not Brides national partnerships on a national level. And so, I would like to show that we now have in 9 countries formal Girls Not Brides national partnerships. We also, there are in a number of countries, national coalitions that don't call themselves necessarily Girls Not Brides, Burkina Faso, for example, but that act as de facto national partnerships. And we're really excited that in more and more countries, these kinds of national collaborative efforts are being developed. Bravo! Congratulations to all of you who are hooking up on a national level. Now, I would really quickly like to look at, aside from the growth of our partnership, look at what has happened in the world out there in our efforts to end child marriage since we met 3 years ago for the first global meeting. But before I do so, I would like to ask all of you who were in Morocco to stand up. Very nice. It's really good to see you again. And it's also nice to now know how many people were not at the previous global meeting, but are here to learn and to unite and to energize. So that's really, really good. Now, there has been tremendous progress since we met 3 years ago in Morocco. And I just would like to highlight a few things. I won't say anything about the numbers because Andrew will later talk to us about the latest UNICEF figures on child marriage. But I would like to, first of all, look at what has happened in terms of global commitments. Since Morocco, we have seen UN resolutions, both at the Human Rights Council as well as at the General Assembly, being adopted. Helpful tools to keep them, to say to governments, you committed to this, we're going to keep you accountable. We saw the Girls' Summit, that was actually before the Morocco meeting, but we're also really happy that there's now the International Day of the Girl Child, which is always a very helpful advocacy tool for all of us, I think. And I guess most importantly, shortly after Morocco, the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted, and thanks to the hard work of many of you and your colleagues, we ended up with a target in the Sustainable Development Goals that commits the world, including all of us, to end child marriage by 2030. We've also seen tremendous progress in regional commitments. You're all familiar with the African Union campaign, I think, and the commitments that have been made there. I won't mention all of them, they're listed here. But what is very good to see is that after the commitments made on a regional level in Africa, and then in Asia, on the South Asian Cooperation Council, that we now also see increasing attention to child marriage in Latin America, and that the Organization of African States is increasingly getting involved. So soon, every part of the world will be covered by regional commitments, hopefully, as well. And then looking at national commitments. I remember when we started working on ending child marriage, some 7 or 8 years ago, there were almost no national commitments. And guess what? There are now more than 34 countries that have either adopted national strategies to end child marriage, or that are in the process of developing those. And I know that many of you are working with governments to try to make sure that these national strategies will be strong strategies and that they will actually contain the kind of content that we believe should be in there. Another thing that has been a great development is that we know so much more about ending child marriage. Why it happens, how we can stop it. And that's important because one of the things that is increasingly being acknowledged is that child marriage is obviously related to so many other things. We heard already earlier this morning about the link with education. There's of course the links with health, with violence, with HIV. And I'm very happy to see increasing attention to the fact that child marriage links to 8 out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And that we're increasingly trying to work with other sectors in order to make sure that when, for example, groups are working on education, that they take into account that child marriage is a factor. Or when groups are working on infant mortality, that they take into account that the children of child brides are much less likely to survive the first year of life. Another thing that we've learned, and that is a very helpful advocacy tool, and that I would like to mention here, is the joint study that was done by the International Center for Research on Women and the World Bank. I suspect that you have all seen this report, but if you haven't, I highly recommend that you look at it. Because this report on the economic cost of child marriage shows that it's not just the right thing from a human rights perspective to end child marriage. It shows that it is not just the right thing from a poverty eradication perspective to end child marriage, but that actually it makes economic sense as well. That if we had a world without child marriage, this world would be trillions and trillions of dollars more wealthy. And so I think this report is very helpful when you try to convince your government to help to create a world without child marriage, because governments, politicians do like money, as we all know. Now, I am incredibly proud of the successes that we have achieved, and I honestly think that all of you, and everybody who's not with us today, but who's part of our partnership, should be incredibly proud. Bravo for all these achievements so far. However, there are also some challenges. And I know that unless we will strengthen our work and accelerate our work in the coming years, actually, because of population growth, we might not be able to end child marriage in one generation. So we need to strengthen and we need to accelerate. And I would like to draw your attention to 4 big challenges that I see. One is the issue of translating commitments, the SDG targets, all these beautiful national strategies, regional commitments, to translate all of those into action. And I hope that in the coming 3 days we will spend a lot of time talking about how we're going to do that. How we're going to make sure that governments that have said, yes, we want the world without child marriage, will actually put the programs and the money there where it's needed to realize that world. Secondly, I see a big challenge in the shrinking civil space. More and more countries are less and less tolerant of civil society or foreign funding for civil society. And as a civil society partnership, we all know that you cannot end child marriage without involving local, national, and international NGOs. And so I think it is really important that we look at what we can do to keep our work going in this increasingly difficult environment. And I know there are some sessions in the program about this issue. Thirdly, there's the challenge of funding. Yes, there is much more funding going to the issue of child marriage, and I'm incredibly grateful to the private donors, the foundations, the governments who are supporting this kind of work. But if you look at the scale of the problem, and if you then look at the amount of money that's available, things are still not balanced. And so we will need to continue to mobilize support for our cause. And lastly, I think there is another challenge, which has to do with the perception that things are going well in an effort to end child marriage. Now, I understand that if you're not involved in our work directly, that you think, whoa, these child marriage people, they seem to be doing well. Look at them, 500 people here in Kuala Lumpur. More donor money, more attention, more commitments, a target in the SDGs. And then people can sometimes say, well, you know, they are already getting quite a bit of attention and money, it's not longer that important. But I don't think we can think that way. I know that we need to do more in order to create an end to child marriage. And so I think we need to watch out for that complacency in the world where people think, oh, they in their silo of ending child marriage, they're doing well enough. So that's something we will also need to think about, how we're going to do it. So what are some of the solutions to this? Well, first of all, I think we need to have in-depth conversations in the coming days around these matters. But I think we need more and more a holistic approach. We have to stop thinking about girls like individuals who on Monday get a little bit of aid on education, and on Tuesday they get HIV prevention, and on Wednesday they get maternal health and sexual reproductive health, and on Thursday they get some child marriage support, and on Friday they get something else. No, we need to start looking at adolescent girls as holistic individuals who need all of these things throughout the week and even in the weekend. And I think if we do that, we will be helping these girls. So we need much more of an all-comprehensive sector approach, and we need to continue doing what we do, which is making sure that all actors work together. Because we all know that we civil society can't do this alone. We have to work with government, we have to work with the UN, and we have so much proof that when we work together that way, that we can make progress. Now let's not forget the way we started out. Our ethos. We're pragmatic, we're low on bureaucracy, we're flexible, we consider every organization, every member equal, we collaborate, and ultimately, girls are at the heart of all we do. I know that if we continue to work that way, that we can end child marriage. And I would like to ask everybody who thinks that we can create that world without child marriage in one generation to stand up now. Nobody is seated. You know what I think we should do? I think we should take the words of one of our champions, Archbishop Tutu, Desmond Tutu, and say them all together. And his words are very simple. Let girls be girls, not brides. Let's do it together. Let girls be girls and not brides. We do it once more. Let girls be girls, not brides. We can do it. And now I would like to ask Andrew to come up. Andrew is one of the godmothers of Girls Not Brides. She helped to think this all through. She's nowadays working with UNICEF, was with the International Center for Research on Women before. She's going to tell us a little bit about the latest facts and figures, and then she's going to moderate a panel that will be looking at some of these challenges and how we're going to go ahead in creating the world without child marriage. Thank you.
Good morning. That's a hard act to follow. And especially as I'm here to tell you about data and evidence. So, but that said, I think data and evidence are important for moving us forward, because what Mabel has made for us is not just the progress that we have made, but also the challenge ahead of us. And I want to talk a little bit today about where we have come from in terms of data and evidence and where we have to go. And then I want to talk to the panelists at the stage and have them discuss a little bit about what it's going to take and how we can learn from the work that they are doing in addressing those challenges. So just to give you a little sense, Mabel took us through a history of Girls Not Brides over the last 7 years. And I wanted to take you a little bit through the history of how the data and evidence has evolved in this century, pretty much starting with 2001. And you know, many people were working on child marriage as early as 1980s, as early as 1920s actually. But it's when the ICPD, when the Cairo Conference happened on population, when the Beijing Conference happened on women and girls' rights, and when the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, were set, then people started really looking at the evidence and the data, how big the problem is. And it's sort of interesting that early on, the terminology child marriage is not what people were using. We used to call it early marriage, and it didn't have quite the same currency, the same urgency that the word child marriage carries. And so you see a 2001 UNICEF report documenting the data, and it was only in sort of, Convention of Child Rights language that people use the word child marriage. Then in 2003, ICRW, we produced this report, Too Young to Wed, and we were looking at the consequences for married girls and looking at the very large number of married girls that we were facing. And you still see a UNICEF report in 2005 still calling it early marriage. And it was right around there that I remember between 2003 and 2005 that we deliberately decided, a few of us, that we're going to call it child marriage. We're going to put more data out there, let people see the scope of this problem. And it's somewhere in 2006, 2005, that all of a sudden the language caught on. And it was in 2011 at that Ethiopia Addis meeting that we released the Solutions to Child Marriage report. And we actually started looking not just at the data of how big the problem was, but what we were going to do about it, and what are some of the solutions. And of course, Mabel just told you about where we are in 2018. We're costing it, where the scope of the data has increased. So where are we now? Next slide. So the rates of child marriage have declined, and at an accelerated pace over the last decade. I think that is something for many of us to be proud of, because not just in the last 7 years, many of you have been working for a long time to try to end this, and that is taking effect. And the rates have declined at a steeper rate, as you can see, than used to be the case. And if they continue to decline at the current accelerated rate, still by 2030, 17% of girls will still be married. So right now we have gone from 1 in 4 girls getting married a decade ago to 1 in 5 getting married now. And we would have to substantially accelerate this accelerated pace to get to even 8% by 2050. So we're looking at a huge, huge task in front of us. We know that the acceleration is in large part due to the progress India has made, because it has such a large number of child brides, but also other areas are making progress. But the prevalence remains very high in sub-Saharan Africa, and with the exception of Ethiopia, which has made progress, the rates have been declining, have been modest, and in some cases have actually reversed. Next slide. So we can say instead of 750 million women and girls estimated to be living as child brides now, it's 650 million. That's still a huge, huge number. 12 million girls instead of an estimated 15 million are getting married every year. And still the largest burden stays in South Asia because of the large numbers in countries like Bangladesh, India. And Sub-Saharan Africa then comes next, but we're looking at the highest prevalence rates in Sub-Saharan Africa, and because of population growth and the slower declines, Sub-Saharan Africa will take over eventually South Asia in the number of child brides as well. Next slide. We see that we have averted 25 million child marriages in the last decade, and 7 million were due to the rate that was going on, but an additional 18 million were prevented or averted because of the accelerated pace. And again, we have to be proud of that because we have worked hard to make that happen. But I do want to have you look at the sobering picture on the right side of this slide. So over the past 25 years, we have seen a rate of decline at 0.7%. In the last decade, we have almost tripled that rate of decline to 1.9%. But it's that bottom bar that says we need to be accelerating at the rate of 23% in order to end child marriage. And that's that horribly large, big bar. That's the challenge that we're looking at going forward. And it is a sobering picture. Next slide. Okay. So when we look at this sobering picture, this is what I think this meeting needs to take forward and think through how we're going to do that. And I have with me these wonderful colleagues, 4 of them who are working hard to end child marriage in their different ways. And I want to talk to them today and ask them how they can pose some of the pathways to address this huge challenge that's in front of us. So first I maybe would like to start with Qamar from Blue Veins. Qamar, grassroots organizations like Blue Veins are fighting to challenge the status quo, especially the power of traditional and religious organizations and authoritarian governments that are oppressing the rights of women and girls. How do you resolve the tension between challenging these organizations, challenging the power of these leaders, and also getting their support?
Very much when we talk about countries like Pakistan, and of course there are many people in this room who would agree that power of religious leaders and religious political parties in the respective countries is one of the key challenges there to deal with when they talk about right-based legislation and issues such as child marriages in our respective countries. And you know, like when we talk about religious leaders, there are there are two types of religious leaders we actually deal with. One who are just religious leaders, and those who are political religious leaders, and they have influence on the legislative bodies. And then in some countries there are structured religious bodies, such as like one we have in Pakistan, like Council of Islamic Ideology, who actually look into all the legislation done and make sure that no legislation done in Pakistan is against the Quran and Sunnah. And this is one of their arguments, that because the Prophet had married a girl in an early age, there should be no legislation in Pakistan which could be. And it's not to the extent that they pose probably more threat, because recently last year it was said in the National Assembly of Pakistan that an effort to child marriage would not only be un-Islamic, but it would be considered blasphemy. And any legislative, any member of the National Assembly who would table such bill could have lose their membership in this assembly. So I mean, it's very important for them. And the greater challenge is that the myths created in the name of religion has to be challenged also in the name of religion, because the better argument for the religious interpretations can be religious interpretation. So we do not have only, we work with religious leaders who are moderate, they are enlightened voices as well, and we really need to focus and bring them forward and their voices, so that the people could not only listen to those who are opposing, but there could be another version of religious interpretations which actually supports efforts of ending child marriages. So we were successful in working with religious leaders who were moderate, who were able to come up and say that they would support efforts. My friend Amreen is here also from Pakistan, and we were working in last 1 year. We were able to obtain a declaration from influential religious leaders in Pakistan, including a member of the Council of Islamic Ideology, and they signing this declaration and extending their support that if there is legislation in Pakistan, they would support it. And also Council of Islamic Ideology in Pakistan, which we believe there should be no council, we should be guarding and gatekeeping legislation, legislations, but for the first time I agree in Pakistan that child marriage is a problem, which is a significant, tremendous progress, where this such body which agrees that yes, child marriages impacts the life of young girls, and now they are licensing and they are extending their outreach to other Islamic countries. They agreed that they would check the ages of other Islamic countries and how successfully they have raised the minimum age for the marriage, and probably they can learn lessons from them and they can also implement such in Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Kamar. And maybe I can turn to Andrajit, the CEO of Plan International. Amy, tell us a little bit about how you reconcile these kind of local challenges with the global force that an international organization like Plan can have, especially in bringing together the issue of girls' education and child marriage. We know that they're intimately connected. How do you use the power of a plan to really make civil society be at the center of bringing these two issues together?
Thanks, Andrew. You know, the power of Plan International is only derived from the work that we do with thousands and thousands of grassroots organizations around the world. We aspire to facilitate them and to facilitate young girls and boys themselves to make the changes that they want to see in the world. But through that approach, we have grown, and we've grown rather large. We work in 80 countries around the world, and want to use that evidence and voice that comes from the villages on a global stage. We're very proud of probably being the leading organization that helped create the International Day of the Girl Child, and actually sort of have also helped put child marriage on a number of government agendas and seen the legislation. I think if we look at it from the global stage, I think what we need to do, all of us, and I think just to pick up on Mabel's point before of what needs to change, and that is that it shouldn't be that you need to be a children's organization or a girls' organization or an ending early marriage organization or whatever you are. It should be every single development organization should have this as a core theme. Because we know, as Mabel was saying, the trillions and trillions that could be released into the global economy, and we know all the rights violations that come with it. So the holistic approach. So what we try to do is to influence other large global partnerships, such as the Global Partnership for Education, such as global environmental partnerships, such as global youth movements, the movements that haven't necessarily previously been deeply engaged with this particular agenda. Because without them, we're not going to move the needle fast enough. Pretty horrifying little bar you had down there with the 25% extra acceleration that needed to happen. So,
Thank you very much, Evie. Aditya, turning to the world that you're looking at in Indonesia, but also to the young generation everywhere. Your generation is operating in a very different world, trying to create social change than was the case for my generation when we were your age. Tell us a little bit about the tools and options your generation can adopt and teach us to try to accelerate this change at the level that's required for child marriage.
Okay, thank you, Angie, for the questions. If you're talking about tools, technologies, internet, social media is still one of the most powerful tools that can influence youth right now. And I'm not talking about the urban youth, but also youth in a rural area that they also have access to the internet and social media. And you know, right now there are a lot of smartphones that is cheap, you know, that are cheap and really affordable. So yeah, I think technologies and social media and internet. And currently in Indonesia, for example, there is a movement that encourages early marriage, and they succeeded their campaign. They have a lot of followers, they have a lot of supporters because you know they can reach many people from with social media, and they develop narrative that can that youth in majority of the youth in Indonesia can relate to it, because in Indonesia youth rely on religious narrative and also religious teaching, so they succeeded to make to send the message with religious narrative and teaching to justify the marrying in early age. And suddenly for these past 2 years or 3 years, marrying in young age in Indonesia is a trend. It's like a cool trend for the youth, so it's really concerning. But it also gives us an opportunity to also develop alternative narrative, and you know, like we can deconstruct or redefine the religious narrative that has been used to justify child marriage. And besides that, with the new concepts such as meaningful youth participation, right now youth are more acknowledged and more involved in policy making mechanism. For example, in Indonesia, government involve more youth organization for in developing national planning for sustainable development, and also in regional they have the similar mechanism. So actually there are you know, more chance for youth today. There are options for youth today to get involved and to actually make a change. And right now it depends on us, on youth, on you know how huge commitment that you are willing to make, and you know how bad you want to make a change. Thank you.
You really put the reality in front of us, because all those tools that are so powerful can also be used by the other side. And so we have to be aware, because we can backtrack very easily. It's not just a matter of going forward. And in terms of backtracking and going forward, Neritzai, we just, as a representative of the African Union and years of understanding these African region, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on what we need to do as we look at sub-Saharan Africa having the highest child marriage prevalence, and now and eventually surpassing South Asia with the largest number of child brides. And talking about narratives, what is the narrative we should be looking at in terms of change in Africa? Is it norms and culture, power structures, services, accountability? What narrative would you like to emphasize?
Thank you so much. I am the AU Goodwill Ambassador on child marriage, so I'm brutally honest on a couple of issues. First is that we must go beyond scaling the status quo. Scaling up the status quo is not transformative. And we must go beyond tinkering around patriarchy. What is critical is for us to continue to realize that child marriage is a development issue, an issue of equality, of rights, and of justice. And I'm very excited that the African Union campaign will be extended to 2021. That's a great commitment for us to continue to mobilize on the continent. We must to shift from this whole discourse that child marriage is a micro household issue only. Child marriage is about macroeconomics. It's about big political decisions. How can Africa's daughters be married off due to poverty when Africa is filthy rich? Each one of you raise your microphone, your phone. Each one of you, you are holding a piece of Africa. This is how rich Africa is. We need Africa's own resources to be able to be prioritized for access to services, education, health, justice, welfare. These are important because Africa is not poor. So we need to talk about resources. Take this around accountability. Accountability of our governments, accountability of ourselves, accountability through policies, through legislation, through resource allocation, but also accountability in the way that we collaborate and in the way that we engage. We must address these structural issues also by our own resource allocation to civil society. Resourcing community interventions to address the structural issues is so important. You know what? African women and communities, we are big. We don't need windows or trickle down of funds to community interventions to end child marriage. We need doors of opportunities in which we can scale up the innovations of what is happening in Africa. Lastly, naming is norming, Andrew. What we are talking about is not, there is nothing called child end a marriage. It's a crime. It's rape. It's violence against children. It's abuse. We must move beyond a language that uses culture to rationalize and justify abuse. There's nothing cultural about child marriage. It's only a rationalization and a justification of a crime. And therefore, for us to change and fight child marriage, not only should we transform the norms, but the structural systems that sustain these negative norms. Let's continue to co-create and strengthen our social movement, which is youth-led, girl-led, and at this meeting we want to say hashtag African Girls.
Thank you, Heranzai. You inspire as always. So as we wrap up, may I go to each of you to give me the one sentence that you'd like to end this panel with. Maybe we start with you. What's the one sentence you'd like us to take away?
Give me 3. To move the agenda forward, we really all have to face our fears and start. You were saying naming is absolutely essential. So could we please start talking about the real root cause, and that is the world's deep obsession with the young woman's sexuality and how and just to unpack that, why is it so frightening that a young woman would have safe, consensual sex with a partner of her choice? A happy, healthy young woman is exactly what we're looking for. And as soon as we all start talking about that, I think we'll start taking away some of the taboos and moving the agenda forward.
Thanks, David. I think one sentence.
Yeah. So, right now there are more chances for our generation to raise our voice, to actually make a change, and it is up to us now on how bad we want to make the change and how huge commitment that we are willing to give to make a change. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to say on behalf of all men and boys that we are not only the part of the problem, but the part of the solution as well. We give our commitment that we stand by you, stay with you, and this is not the problem which only affects girls and women. It affects us as a society, it affects men, it affects everybody. Ending child marriage is possible and it's happening.
Thank you. Yes. Last word.
I am angry. I'm angry, I'm hating, it's unacceptable, it's preventable with the right politics, the right policies, the right technical interventions, the right evidence, the right conversations in the private space. We can end child marriage.
And we look forward to being together, being angry, being engaged, and really looking to change that fundamental thing about neurosexuality not being a threat or to be controlled, but really being the powerhouse that it can be. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Heather Hamilton. I'm Deputy Executive Director at Girls Not Brides. And if you'll bear with us for just a couple more minutes, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you can make the most out of your time at this meeting. In designing this meeting, the Secretariat worked incredibly closely with you, our members, to make these few days what you need and want. I'd like to acknowledge the contribution of our many members across the world who contributed directly to the program. We asked members what you wanted to hear about and what you wanted to get out of the meeting. There are sessions that you rated highest in the survey, long lunches and breaks, spaces for side meetings, and a full track set aside for you to host the conversations that you want. And I'd like to particularly recognize those many organizations in the room who took on the full organization of sessions themselves. Many of the sessions here at this meeting were proposed, designed, and created by our member organizations. And they were proposed, designed, and created to do this: to connect, to learn, to inspire, and align. That's what we're here to do. But it's not just about you here. It's about us. How we all work together to end child marriage. And a big part of that is about how we treat each other. Each one of you signed a safeguarding code to come here. And there's an anti-harassment policy in your bag. Please read it. But what it really boils down to is respect. It's up to each and every one of us to treat each other with the highest standards of respect and honorable behavior. If anyone feels harassed or bullied, please contact Denishta or Charlotte. Their numbers are in your program. And they're on the signs outside about safeguarding. There is a safe space, a women and girls only space for people who need to get away, for women who need to get away. The directions for that can be found in the village. There are also counseling services available. We know that these discussions can be quite difficult and quite traumatic. Looking at the number of people who stood up, who had experienced child marriage and had a close person in their life experience child marriage, we know that this can really trigger a lot of things for a lot of people. So there are people who can provide counseling. Again, talk to Denishta or Charlotte. And speaking of boundaries, we have some media at the events. Most sessions are Chatham House rules. What that means is that you can tell others and write about what happened in the sessions, but please don't quote anyone by name directly without their permission. However, all the live stream sessions, which are integrated in the program with an L, will be filmed and broadcast on Facebook simultaneously. So they're essentially public and on the record. There will be media in those sessions. There's also a film crew and photographer going around taking films and images of the session. If you don't want to be filmed, could you please talk to Jen and let her know that you do not want to be filmed? So, how do you make the most of this meeting? First, it's important to think about the fact that we had over 1,000 applications for the 350 reserved member slots at this meeting. So for every person who is sitting here today, there are at least 2 people who wanted to come and could not be here. So you have a responsibility. We strongly encourage you to document and share what you learn here with your colleagues at home, with your networks at home. And we hope that those that couldn't be here today will be joining us online. Whether you're watching from home or you're here in Kuala Lumpur, you can join the conversation on social media. We have a Facebook group that you can join to add to the conversation and have the conversation with folks who are outside. We have a daily digest that you can sign up to at girlsnotbrides2018.org, Daily Digest. And that's going to be this really cool magazine summary of the day for you to look at, reflect on, and take home and share with others. And then finally, we want you to join the conversation on whatever channels of social media you use with the hashtags GMB2018, GMB Live for the live stream sessions, and End Child Marriage. Now, I'm super excited about The Village. So The Village is a space just a couple doors down that we've created for you to have the conversations that you need to have. We have a campfire set up, a fishbowl, a world cafe, and the inside of the digital hub that are available for you to use at breaks, lunches, before and after the meeting, and there are sign-up sheets where you can sign up to have to hold the space and have the conversations that you need. There is also a map on the outside of the digital hub where we ask you to write on it. Tell us who you are and what you're working on. And that then will have a visual display of everyone who's here. On the other side of the digital hub, there's an interactive wall where you get to write your success stories, where you can share what you've learned about what works. What is your success that you want to share with people? And finally, do visit the poster area. Many people here today brought along posters to learn about their work, and they will be giving poster sessions throughout. So visit the poster area, find the posters you're interested in, look at when the presentation is, and go to that presentation, learn about their work. And if you didn't bring a poster, there's a table with creative supplies, including paper and scissors, and even glitter is available for you, should you get so creative, to make your own poster. We also have this big open area on the program on Tuesday at 2 to 3:30. It's called Open Space. Now, that is not a space for you to check your emails, go shopping, take a nap. This is your time at this meeting. It is here for you to host the conversations that you want to have. Anyone who's here at this meeting can propose to host a conversation on any topic that you want to talk to other participants about. Whether it's your program, whether it's a strategy session, you can use this time to gather people together. If you want to propose a conversation, what you're going to do is go to the village and post your topic on the wall with your name and organization on the sign-up sheet by 12:30 on Tuesday. You'll need to come back at 1:30 on Tuesday to find the location of your conversation, of where you're going to hold your meeting. We'll assign you a table or a space. And you might want to check if somebody else has a similar conversation that you might want to combine, or if you see something more interesting. We actually have people in Casablanca taking them down and being like, no, I'm going to that one. You also have a responsibility to be there at the location at 2 o'clock, facilitate the conversation, and appoint a rapporteur, preferably on a computer, but handwritten notes are okay, who can take some notes about what you decided, what you talked about, and share it back to the Secretariat staff so that we can share it with other people. To attend a session, super simple, show up at 1:30 in the village to review what's on hand, find out where the session is, and go to it. But what you need to understand, and there's more about this in the program, is that open space operates by the law of 2 feet. Wherever you need to be is where you need to be. And if it's not the right conversation for you, you can get up and move. And whatever happens in that conversation is the right thing that needed to happen. And the right people will show up. So use this space wisely. For anyone who proposed a session that wasn't accepted, this is where you can do your magic. So, one cool tool that I want to tell you all about is Slido. Can everyone get out your phones if you don't already have it out, or your laptops, and go open your browser and go to sli.do. That's all you need to enter in the browser. And once you get that up, sli.do, you enter in where it says enter event code, the event code GMB 2018. You don't need the hashtag. Just GMB, capital GMB 2018. Yes, capital G, capital N, capital B 2018. So this is a tool that's going to allow us to ask questions from a big audience like this in plenaries and to do polling in the session. So in every session, we're going to run our evaluation with the Slido app. We will have paper on hand if you don't have a phone or laptop. But this is super simple. And all the directions, there are, in every room, there is a poster that says evaluation. It has the directions for logging in. So are there people who are there, they're in, and you're seeing something? All right. Michelle, can you hit play? So, sorry. Did you select plenary theater? Everyone got the room. So you need to get the room that you're in when you're in a different room. So as you go in, change the room if you've already logged in. When you log in, it'll ask you for your room. So, please answer the first question. Got 84 people who have already answered it. Thank God the Wi-Fi is working. We had nightmares that we would crash the Wi-Fi. Yes, North Americans are very quick. All right. So, we're going to move on to the next question. It is still running. All right. There we go. All right. So that's one type of question. It's a multiple choice question. Another kind of question is a rating. How cool is that view of the Patronus Towers from the front hallway? Super cool, somewhat cool, not at all cool. I think, yeah, that's somewhat. Okay. Who doesn't think that's cool at all? Really? We have some sarcastic people here. But it's got me implicit. Pretty good. All right, and then the next question. Oh, it went away. In one word, what do you hope we can achieve together at this meeting? Action and collaboration. Learn, partnership, momentum, solidarity. Coffee. Friendships. Yes, I have many friendships from meetings like this. Hope. Nuances. I like that one. Power. That is great. Peace. So, now that you have an idea of how to use this app, this is great. I'm so happy with this. Sorry, I'm having a moment with the word cloud. Now that we have an idea of how to use this app, and you all have your phones out, I want to close this meeting by noting that one of the things that I've learned this morning and yesterday is that selfies are universal. So, in the spirit of connecting, I'm going to ask you to look around your immediate area and find someone you don't know. And when we break, what I want you to do is to go take a selfie together and post it to social media using those hashtags. And talk about what you're each doing to end child marriage. Maybe talk on your post about what you learned. So, go forth, connect, inspire, post to social media. Thank you.